All right, and we're back. It's another Neville and Chill with friends. I have to say, one of the things that I love most about this Neville and Chill space is really what we get to do here. We really get to not only have conversations with interesting people, but really we get to journey deeply into some of the topics that, where else do you really have conversations like this? It's such a unique space. And obviously the Neville, in Neville and Chill comes from the inspiration of the teachings of Neville Goddard, which is all about imagination creating reality. And the chill part is a play on Netflix and chill, but for your mind. And I think there's something truly amazing about that. So tonight we have a special guest. Very much looking forward to our discussion tonight. And I wanted to start, before I bring him in, just talking a little bit about where we are. So in the last episode of Neville and Chill, episode 18, I brought on Angela Hailey, who is a manifestation teacher, as well as many, many other things, and really a very beautiful and full embodiment of the state of living a rich, abundant, and fulfilling life by using the power of imagination. And she shared her perspective on how she manifested her soulmate. She went from being single and searching and searching and searching and searching to really arriving at the state within herself of finding rather than the state of searching. She was able to make that shift into the state of finding. And she shared this in the last episode about how she made that shift into the state. And she set a deadline in her imagination. I will be married within 6 months of July 4th, 2022. She arrived at the state and she set that as her very calm and accepted knowing that this was her path and she was ready for it. And through an amazing bridge of incidents, which she shared in depth, she was, as she famously said, delivered to her future husband's doorstep like Amazon Prime. And we got to hear the amazing bridge of incidents from her about all of the twists and turns and everything that she went through to arrive in this place where she ended up meeting her soulmate. Now, her soulmate, we're going to meet tonight. And this gentleman was also an attendee at one of the retreats. So I hosted a retreat in upstate New York at a retreat center called Menla in the fall of 2022. And Angela was a participant in this retreat, and Tamer was brought in as a subject matter expert on a certain type of brainwave technology. And that invitation between Angela coming to be the participant and Tamer coming to present his technology was my part of the story about how I was involved in being part of the bridge of incidents for these two people to meet each other. So we're going to hear more of that story tonight. And we're going to hear it in particular from Tamer's perspective. So Tamer and Angela have now been married for about a year now, I believe, or almost 2 years, I think, and have a beautiful baby son, Leo, who just turned 1 year old. So let me go ahead and introduce Tamer for you all. Tamer is dedicated to helping people awaken to the power of their inner potential while leading and serving from that place. For the last 15 years, Tamer has been working in the physical education, coaching, and fitness industries. He has a bachelor's degree in public health. He is a master trainer in anti-grav fitness techniques and is a certified life mastery coach from Tony Robbins Institute, and is totally dedicated to inspiring people to live a physically active, mentally awake, and vibrant life. He is the director and founder of a wellness company, Tame Life, which is a play on his name, Tamer, of course. He holds international teacher trainings, wellness retreats, virtual coaching, workshops, and in general supports people with unique at-home health technology to empower and to remind all of us that health is wealth. Without further ado, I am so pleased to introduce you all to Tamer. Welcome, Tamer. Thank you so much for being on Neville and Chill.
Thank you, Josiah, for making this happen. It's great to see you again, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I'm so excited to have you here because so many times when we hear love stories, we really just hear it from one perspective. And in this case, we get to hear it from both perspectives. So we got Angela's perspective in episode 18, and now I'm so excited to hear your story, which I quite honestly I know a little bit less about because you're kind of filling me in before we went live here. But I'm so excited to really understand where you started on your journey, not just in your love story, but also just in personal development and growth and awakening, and then also the twists and turns of the bridge of incidents that brought you to where you are now in terms of your love story. So before we hop right into that, quick hello to everyone that we have joining us on the live stream. We've got a full house on here. I saw a lot of chat going on. As we were getting started here, I see we have Oksana, Jackie, Orlena, Stasio. Hello to Orlena's son, Omri. He's super excited to say hello. We've got Moon Bunny, Natisha, Zay, Will, Lisa, Ramon, and I saw Last Fan and Anna. Fantastic. So welcome to everybody in the chat. And there's Carrie. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So Tamer, let's just go ahead and we've Melanie also. Okay. Hello, everybody. Let's go ahead and jump right in.
What's
Tamer,
up, everybody? Nice to meet you. Yes. Let's go.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So I'm super interested to hear your origin story.
Born and raised in a small town in Utah called Farmington.
Utah.
Farmington, Utah. Believe it or not, the town is called Farmington, and 90% of the population in Farmington, they farm. They live in a very, small town, rural life. One of the interesting parts about Farmington in Utah is in a county called Davis County, which is 90% Mormon. So I grew up in a town that was primarily Mormon or LDS. And as a young boy, we as a family we did not fit in. It was one of those, like, we're the black sheep in this community early on. And one of the interesting things about that was it taught me, it was kind of like my first experience as I was an 8-year-old boy in this concept that I've really been toying with lately called cultural agility. Now, little did I know that cultural agility and the lessons that I got by, the other school kids who weren't allowed to come play with me because I didn't go to church, or the other kind of challenges of growing up in a very, very conservative farming town, small, community in Utah. Little did I know how much of an impact that would have on my life later on. And, you can always hindsight 2020 of how appreciative I was for those early challenges of being the black sheep in a herd that we just did not fit in. And, I have 3 little sisters. So we would run around the in the summertime, my sisters, we'd run around the yard naked. We'd jump on the trampoline. We were like the fun house that everybody wanted to be at, but that was like definitely not kosher with the other community. And it was, it was, in many ways, it was so beautiful because life was simple, right? We'd literally ride our bikes through cornfields to the school. And there was never any worry about, anything weird going on, or, mom would ring the bell and you'd hear the bell from down the road to come home for dinner type of growing up. And it was, challenging, and the cultural agility aspects of it, of learning how to fit it in a demographic where we were different and in many ways not really included because of the simple fact that we didn't go to church. And later on, to be able to look back on it and appreciate it is what was kind of like my first big lesson in learning how to fit in and adapt and evolve in a community where you don't really feel like you're like anybody else. It's the weirdness, like,
Mhm.
and learn how to from a young age embrace the weirdness and the uniqueness and the what made me different. And in many cases it was just that we weren't Mormon.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting to me when you share that story is I know how global of a man you grew up to be. Like you literally have lived everywhere, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I can see how those humble beginnings in Farmington, Utah, really that cultural agility that you were able to develop helped you become
Mm.
uh, global and adaptable and kind of that chameleon able to fit in literally to any culture. I think that's I think that's a remarkable part of your story.
Mm. I know, and back then it was hard because like kids wouldn't be able to come play basketball with us because we weren't Mormon, or my sisters had some really tough times growing up because the other girls, they're just mean, So we had to. What we did learn though is that like as family, I'm the oldest of 3 younger sisters, and we're also a little bit different because my name is Tamer. So like everyone would call me Tamer Begum, and then everyone would make fun of that name. And Tamer is actually the tree in the desert called the Tamer tree, and it's a very popular name in Arabic countries. Uh, Funny enough, the first person I met when I was in Cairo, Egypt, his name was Tamer. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here to check in at the hotel. Here's my password. He's like, you're no Tamer. I'm like, yeah, well, I pronounce it Tamer. And a part of the origin with that unique kind of name that already kind of made me a little bit different and weird was that my father was adopted. So the last name that you see, Begum or Begum, is another very interesting kind of. It originates from Afghanistan. It's a name widely popular in the Middle East, and I'm far from Indian or Pakistani or Arabic. I think we're like 60% Norwegian with some English splashed in. So growing up, it was like you're Tamer Begum with 3 little sisters called Tanisha, Triana, Trudy, and you're not Mormon, so you're definitely not fitting in here.
That's
But what I did
amazing.
learn is if I could be really good at sports, like
Mm,
be the best kid on the playground at basketball, be the best hustler out there in the football games, then I would have friends. So from a young age, what allowed me to kind of merge and find my groove was I found it through athleticism and through playing sports. And I
mhm,
just made basketball like my thing because it was the thing allowed me to connect to everybody else that I would go to school with. It was like the
mhm.
common ground. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you don't come to church on Sunday, but we can ball on the courts at school, and that's okay. And
Mhm.
we're gonna make fun of you every time the intercom comes on. Tamer Begum, come to the office, please. Is the whole classroom would erupt. And my sisters, again, Tanisha, Triana, and Trudy. It was we're the black sheep of the block, man. So
That's really funny. So Lisa Marie puts in the chat, black sheep are the awakened ones, the
uh,
chosen ones. The white sheep follow the herd, but we all know
mm,
it's best not to do that. Yeah,
exactly.
for
So
sure.
we've been pioneering and leading and learning how to adapt and uh, becoming the best at what you needed to be in that moment to thrive.
Mm,
And so learning all that at like the young age of, between 1996 and 2000 until that. So I was born in 1990 to share with everybody my age. I don't really care about age. I think it's just a number, but it was those like end of 90s era when the Utah Jazz were like really good that I
oh,
was like full on basketball. And then
yeah.
shortly after that, dad did a little bit better in his career. He was we were growing as a family, so we then moved out of Farmington to Salt Lake City, like the big
Mhm.
city,
Right.
45 minutes south, right in the heart of, you know, basically what it was. It was just a more larger, more expanded version of where we were with more diversity.
Mhm.
However, early on in those days of, okay, so now flash forward, I'm now in my teens and I'm going into, we call it junior high school, right? Going into junior high. if you're part of the Mormon crowd in junior high, you automatically have your crew, right? You fit in, like you're part of the white sheep. You're immediately in. Doesn't matter. You're just accepted.
Yeah.
And being the kind of black sheep crowd, what was interesting about growing up in Utah then was you were kind of immediately merged with the other black sheep kids. And in many ways, those other black sheep kids, like it or not, it's just how it was. They came from the broken homes. They were the kids that their parents were split early on. They were the kids that, their older brothers were the bad influences and got them into all sorts of young debauchery. They were the skaters that weren't part of the Mormon crew, but were the rebellious crowd. They're the kids that want to be in the rock. They want to be the next Aerosmith in the rock, on the stages in the rock bands. So I just, okay, well, I'm no longer a basketball player. I'm a skateboarder and I'm a guitarist. Let's go.
I love this. What a launch pad for a life.
So we moved from Farmington. We got out of there. Thank God. It was great, easy, very rural life. Ride your bike everywhere to school, but it was way too small. It would not have ever worked. And mom and dad knew that. Like, we tried to go to church, but it just didn't work. Like, we did not fit in. So we moved to Salt Lake. I started junior high in a place called Olympus Hills, right at the mouth of a mountain called Mount Olympus, believe it or not. So we'd look out our window. We'd go to school at this junior high school right at the base of a beautiful mountain called Mount Olympus. And I mean, the history of Mount Olympus from ancient Greek times is pretty heroic. So it was like this, you'd look up at this beautiful mountain and you'd go hike up it every summer, and it was such a wonderful like connection to nature that I, during those times, got to really lean into. And, growing up in Utah, we have some of the best snow on earth. So besides becoming a guitarist, which I learned how to play, and there's a huge story behind that too, by the way, learning how to skateboard, which I fit in right away because I had kind of like I was playing sports, so I learned how to skateboard. I just made it my next sport. Okay, I'm a skater now. Let's go. But then it was we would just go through these mountains, and from the snowboarding in the winter through these powder up to your waist, like best snow, and you'd smell the pine trees going down the hill. It just became almost like my safe space. Like when you close your eyes and you go into that safe space of that like paradise. At that time, it was in the mountains, whether it was summer with the beautiful hiking, the fall with the leaves and the foliage, and you see the whole mountain just light up with colors of red and orange, and you walk through the leaves. It's really beautiful. And then in the winter, it was on my snowboard. I just fell in love with learning how to ride my snowboard, and it became my safe space. Because now I didn't have to, it wasn't a team sport. It was, you got your board, you got your gear, and you're just at one with nature. And in these beautiful mountains of Utah, I'm very, very grateful that I got the childhood that I did there, because it was, it was special, being able to grow up in the mountains like that and have all that wonderful access to nature and really learn who you are by leaning into just the silence of the mountains and being really kind of, grounded and down to earth with nature in my teens. It really set up I would say around that time was when I started really leaning into the groundedness of the mountains grounded me in my spirituality.
So Tamer, I'm imagining a young Tamer guitarist and skater and snowboarder, but also athlete and like really good basketball player. And I just have to ask, what was the hairstyle that really?
Oh man, I gotta throw the picture. Long blonde curly hair down to my chest.
I knew it.
Grow some dreadlocks in the back. Like, we were the skating, rock and roll, snowboarding crowd of Mount Olympus. And my hair just grew long and curly, and it would naturally dreadlock. So I'd grow a few dreads in the back, and I just leaned totally into that young kind of rock star persona.
I knew there was a look that went along with this unique. Yeah.
By then, it was not so much basketball, because basketball, you're playing church ball, they called it, or you're like part of the Boy Scouts, or
Okay.
you're on the teams where the bishop is the coach for all the basketball teams. Remember, that wasn't me. We did not fit in there. We tried because we loved it. We loved balling, but we weren't really accepted. And you always kind of felt this vibe that, like, okay, you can play, but you're not gonna be accepted on the team. This is just for fun for you. I'm like, okay, skateboarding, dreadlocks, learn all the Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Bob Marley songs I can, and live for snowboarding and skateboarding. That was the life.
Fantastic. So you talked about living in the shadow, literally, of Mount Olympus, and really finding access to your safe space, that quiet space, through some of your relationship with nature. And I can see how all of this is weaving to that launch pad of life. You mentioned about this idea of really tuning into the hero's journey, the way that the hero's journey is presented in The Alchemist, and this idea of living a personal legend. Can you kind of weave that? Like, at what point did you become aware that you were living your personal legend?
I love that question. And if anybody's read The Alchemist, you know that everybody has a personal legend in this life. It's those that have the courage to go out and seek and find that treasure and become that legend, are those that get to look back and really just lavish in love, which is what, at the end of it all, is what it leads to. And so flash forward, we've gone through junior high. We barely survived high school. That was rough, man. Being a rock star skater, like trying to figure out my way through Skyline High School, which was 90% LDS, barely fit in, like again, this is full vulnerability and transparency tonight sharing, which is, I'm so honored I get to do. But it was, getting kicked out of school for smoking pot in the boys' room, literally, like the song. It was
like the song. Yeah, the song was written about you, Tamer.
Smoking in the boys' room, like me and my buddies, and now you're expelled. Okay, well, let's just play guitar then. And then it was barely getting through high school with so many of my close friends who, again, we were part of we called you have the choose the right, which is the white sheep, and then you have the choose the wrong. And you're in the choose the wrong crowd. So you're stealing mom's car on the weekend. You're hanging out with the kids that are older, that are drinking and partying, and you get sucked into that world so quickly that it was like, it wasn't until my junior year of high school that I realized, like, this is not going to serve me. But, we're still 21 years old, by that time we were still only 18 years old. So what happened was, flash forwarding, I barely survived high school. Luckily enough, I made the last year. I had a girlfriend, and a girlfriend was like the middle area. It was like, I'm not with the choose the wrong crowd. I definitely don't fit in over here, so I'm gonna make this the thing. And I got good grades. And then I said, okay, I want to go to a good school. I know that education it was important to me. I really wanted to go into a good university and evolve. It was like that moment was, I saw so many of my friends go down that path that they never came out of. And to this day, they're in mid-30s and still living the same thing we were doing in high school. Skateboarding, living in mom's basement, and never really took advantage of or had the calling to develop their own personal legend. So it was books like The Alchemist. It was books like, back then it was when The Secret came out. That was like so eye-opening for me, to be able to close my eyes and manifest and create what I wanted. And honestly, the first thing that I successfully did was a girlfriend. I'm like, she's going to have brown hair. She's going to come to me by my birthday. Perfect. Now I can at least be in a safe space with somebody who's going to keep me on track of doing what I know is alignment with my higher self, which is, after high school, getting a good education and continually following, like, what is that legend in my life? So get to university. On the first day of university, literally the weekend before, I got pulled over. I had some cannabis in my trunk. They made it a whole big deal, man. Like in Utah back then, a little cannabis and you're screwed. And not only that, it was like a little bit of cannabis and plus like mom and dad going through like a really big, just full on divorce. I don't know for any people who've been divorced at a young age, it was just turmoil. So now I have like this legal issue with having to go to court for cannabis and mom and dad getting divorced. And I'm 18 years old starting university. So I was just like low point, like major low, major shadow under Mount Olympus. Like you go from the high of the high to the low real quick. And it was from that low that actually really transformed that little chapter of my life in my early 20s, which was, okay, this is not going to serve me. This crowd is not going, this does not align. I have to break free from this. So I just threw myself into as much of my college experience as I could. And I made that a really fun, enjoyable part of my life. I went to a school it was a liberal arts school in Utah. It was like a cool little kind of liberal artsy, different from the main university, definitely not BYU, which was the Brigham Young, like where all the Mormons went. It was like this cool little nook in Sugar House, Utah, where athletes from all over the world would come to train for the Olympic sports. And I just found my groove there. I got into my music started evolving. So the rock star kid actually, like, I got a minor degree in music because it actually became such a huge part of my life. So I was singing with the choir and I was writing songs and I was recording and I was on my way to med school, believe it or not, because, mom back then was going through divorce. So she's like, the only way you're going to be successful in life is if you become a doctor and just follow in your grandfather's footsteps and take over the dental practice. And, back then when you have like, if anybody's ever read the book, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was the perfect teacher. I couldn't have asked for a better teacher, which was like, follow the norm, do what everybody does, and you will be successful. So I went for it. I spent 2 years of my life pushing my way through biology, chemistry, physics, all those labs, and I was so miserable. It was so painfully hard that I was like, no way. I remember one day falling asleep on the biology book, getting out, walking to the counselor saying, I'm done. I'm not doing this med school route anymore. Mom, sorry, hate to break it to you. I'm not following in Grandpa Harrison's footsteps. I'm going on my own way. And it was that moment that it was like a big like step towards again, that personal legend, which is taking full responsibility for your life and your dreams and not letting the dreams and the norms of family tradition or cultural comforts affect your decision making. And it was just so happened. It was like life happens for you, right? You create, you are yourself pushed out. You are reality pushed out. It was that moment that they just started a public health program, like the first year of public health at my school. And I could go study abroad in Asia to get credit. So I was like, okay, done. Let's go. Sign me up. I had all the science classes done. I finished up the last 2 years of university, enjoying my music classes, enjoying what at that point in time, I was now 19 years old. And I had just brought to the first university in the world a program called anti-gravity. So I was literally hanging people upside down from silk hammocks with this technique that's a genre called aerial yoga. And it was awesome. I was in wellness. I was healthy. I was inspiring others to take care of their health. I was having a great time. Life was back on and up. It was like, okay, got at least the first chapter of my 20s and the challenges out of the way. Still going through the parents' divorce, which was just ugly and drawn out. And if anybody's ever been through that, you know how dismantling it is for an older brother of 3 sisters. The whole thing just kind of crumbled. So, but I made my commitment to my education, to my craft, and to like what was what was pulling me forward, which was getting myself into like creating the best possible life I could for myself. And I knew that at that point in time, 1920, it was in education.
Mhm. Tell me about this anti-grav thing. So what inspired you to bring this to Utah?
Great question. Thank you so much for asking that. The technique originates from New York City.
Okay.
And kind of weaving in here, like how much New York City has played an impact on my life. As an 8-year-old boy, every summer I would go back to New York. It was the place where like my heart would always sing. I was free.
Mm.
When the first inline skates came out, it was 1998. My uncle put us on skates and we'd skate through the city. And then, so my uncle Chris, who is Christopher Harrison, he's the founder of the technique called anti-gravity and started the world's first program called aerial yoga. Well, he was he was in Barack Obama's inauguration with aerialists. They've done all sorts of entertainment for so long, bringing aerials to pop culture. So, all sorts of large scale gigs that would want aerials, from Broadway to, Fortune 500 companies calling in like aerial acrobatic gigs. During that time, they would call anti-gravity. And they were actually the only non-singing actor during Obama's inauguration, and just a whole bunch of really cool entertainment that was happening back then. And the athletes found that it was so beneficial for their spine to hang upside down. So he created a whole technique around it. And so when I was 18 years old in New York, I started taking classes. And then when I came back for the next semester, I said, hey, there's a dance studio here. Let's put up some hammocks. This is so cool too, because there's skiers and snowboarders that are coming to train. So it's like there's athletes and there's a wellness center. Let's do it. And so, jumping through all the hoops to get it done, but we finally hung up 10 hammocks in the basement of this little dance studio. And we became the first campus in the world to offer anti-gravity techniques to the school. So that was
Very
like,
cool.
yeah, that was such a cool chapter, because it was like, now I'm teaching yoga. So when I
Mhm.
turned 19, I was now teaching anti-gravity, and it's very much like a yoga technique. So you start the class with mindfulness and breath work, and then you go into hanging upside down, which just decompresses the spine, and then you go into some strength and mobility training, which is just a fun way to train your core and mobilize your hips. And then you end in this floating cocoon like shavasana experience where you're just cradled inside, and all the students would just fall asleep for 10 minutes at the end of class because they just needed a break. And that was like the second half of my experience in university. So
Very cool. Yeah. So when we met at the Portal Retreat 2022, which was at Menlo. It was a 5-day, and the topic for the Portal Retreat was state akin to sleep. Basically, a 5-day masterclass, deep dive, live guided experience of the hypnagogic state of awareness, and learning to access it, learning tips, techniques is a fantastic experience. So I had assembled a group of students who came from, YouTube and School of Imagination, and all flew into New York to participate in this retreat. And you showed up because we had brought you in to demonstrate a brainwave entrainment technology to help people access hyper creative states of awareness. And so I didn't really know you before you arrived. And I remember walking into one of the buildings on the campus of Menla and seeing these silks, and you like flipping around on these silks. And I'm like, who is this guy? What is happening right now? It was mind boggling to see you do your thing.
yeah. So, and thank you for that. Like, I can't wait till Portal Retreat reunion, because it was such a wonderful experience. But that was so much like after the fact. So finished up uni, was on fire with teaching this technique, could not stand Utah anymore. I was so done with it. This is way too small of a town. Thank you. I graduated college, booked a one-way ticket to New York, and that was it. Like, my life was pulling me towards being back in New York City. And I was 21 years old, and I landed in New York, and my uncle, who's building this both entertainment and fitness company and really cool brand, the first gig that we land in, talk about timing, was the Victoria's Secret fashion show, where Justin Bieber, Rihanna, and Bruno Mars are opening, they're the performers on this show. And we got cast not only to do like the opening circus, like the aerialists and the acrobatics, but we were the first people on the hoverboards that you see opening the stage for Adriana Lima with flags. So bringing my background of movement, both kind of from athleticism and gymnastics and now aerials, onto the runway, it was so cool because now 2 weeks after moving to New York, we land on the Victoria's Secret runway, opening the show with these hoverboards that were zooming through, we're zooming down the runway with flags, and we're like getting the whole crowd hyped up for Adriana Lima, who comes out as the ring bear, and then following it by all these aerialists and the penny farthing and like the jugglers and the contortionists. It was that moment where I'm like, okay, I am now like, I have created a reality that I am so excited for. New York was like, I am meant to be here. Like, talk about, the concept of yourself. I'm no longer a little kid, a little kid from Utah. I'm a top performing, talent with Justin Bieber and Rihanna and Bruno Mars. I am bound for greatness. Let's go. And so that was like a moment it was like a huge impact on my life, because as a 21-year-old kid, to be able to book that type of show with this company called Anti-Gravity, it totally changed the whole trajectory. From then on, it was, okay, now I'm a professional in New York. I'm an actor. I'm a model. I'm an aerialist. I'm teaching fitness classes. I was grinding so hard in New York City for so long, and, got to shoot with some of the most famous photographers. I shot with Bruce Weber, who's the guy behind, Abercrombie. I shot with Carl Giant, who's done photographs for Beyonce and Adele. Like, it was, and I'm now 21 years old, as like kind of the young kid from Utah, and everyone, you just have this top of the world, like 5 minutes of fame moment, and you ride that momentum. It was a really, really fun time, because that led to more cool gigs and a couple other acting, live performances that I got to do, and just a really amazing community that I built by teaching these fitness and like mindfulness classes. So 3 days a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then like sometimes on a Sunday, people would meet me in Midtown Manhattan to come do this class called Anti-Gravity. And back then it was like the coolest fitness trend. It was like the best class you could do, because it was easy for people to get the benefits of yoga without having to push through the challenges of like, limited range of motion. And it was easy for people to get into that state. So when you talk about like the state akin to sleep, and that state that we learned so much about from Neville, that's the state that you can get people into almost immediately when you're floating in a hammock. Like, imagine you're on a beach and you're floating in a hammock, and your brain is in that deep, like alpha, theta. You're like right about to sleep. We were teaching that every week in New York, and people were loving it. And we were having such a huge impact on people's lives that Buzz caught this technique from New York that's kind of has an entertainment play, because it was Victoria's Secret. Then Pink did it in the Grammys. If you Google search Pink in the Grammys, you'll see she's one of the endorsers of the brand, because she got upside down and performed in the silks, and it blew up. Basically, the Anti-Gravity blew up around that time frame, and I was in the perfect place at the perfect time. So it was this exciting moment. And then I remember one night I had this dream. It was this dream of when I was in Thailand, like riding on elephants and helping people with health. And it was this dream of like being out. I don't know if anybody's been in New York City in like mid-July, but you live like a sleeping bag for 6 months. It is freezing cold. You don't see the sun. I was so over it by like my third year there of just really hustling. New York City is like a young, budding in this industry. I was so over it that I literally imagined myself how I was in Thailand during my undergraduate degree for the 3 months that I studied there. And I woke up the next morning to a call from our new developers who have just opened their training center in the Philippines and wanted me to go. So we had the Philippines calling, Hong Kong had just come on, Tokyo was right in queue, wellness retreat in Thailand was just opening up. And it's like, my conception of self was, I am now a master in mindfulness and movement techniques, and I'm going to go inspire the world in Asia to learn how to do this fun, a unique way of moving and training your body and your mind. And my number one intention was just go change lives of people all over Asia and have a great time doing it. So that's what led me through my chapter in Asia, was like a good chunk of developing and riding the wave of New York City on the coattails of Justin Bieber from the Victoria's Secret show.
So we named this segment the Untamed 20s because you are living the high life, meaning you're having the ride of your life. You're having the just incredible experiences, and it's a little untamed. Yes.
So here's the thing. If you've ever been to Hong Kong, it's like New York City, Asian, like full Chinese with fun like expats, and it's Candyland. Like, whereas New York, it's like Saturday and Sunday, you go out. In Hong Kong, every night is a party. And you land there is like, now it was 2014. I was 20. I was right about to turn 24. I was 23 when I moved there. And it is every night there's something going on. So from the races to the comedy clubs to the Lan Kwai Fong nightlife district to the Peak where they have all the beautiful lights and the shows, and down to, the Wan Chai where it's like the crazy, the red light district, like underground parties. Like it was insane. And I was way too young to have really, at that point in time, it was like, okay, the reins are off. Let's go. We're in Asia. I'm finally out of New York. I created this new life that was so exciting. And that was like, oh, I did it. Like I'm here. It was that moment of when you feel like you just really accomplished something, like your reality just changed into something that you've wanted it to be for so long. And however, the key in like the shadow of the soul and the untamedness of it was I was still carrying all of that shadow from Mount Olympus. I was still in that unknown, I was in that unknown part of the hero's journey where like I had not yet met the mentor, and the party it was like a typhoon. It was one party after the next, one crazy night after the next. And then before I know it, I'm, in my 26, 27, 28 years old, 3 years later, just flashed by. And in my day, I was inspiring people to live healthy. But by night, I was still so sad and alone. And it was partly because of that pain body that I never healed from my father. And that shame that kind of it's almost a subconscious passing down, when your father never knew his father and he names you after him, and you carry this weight on your shoulders of like not enough, for your family, feeling like you were part of the problem that caused mom and dad to get divorced, feeling like this guilt that you had because you didn't go to med school and you chose to go join the circus and run away, like my mom used to say. It was a lot of deep shame that was never really resolved, which led me to being very vulnerable for substance abuse. And the Untamed 20s was a wild time in my life, filled with so much joy and adventure. But underlying, it was like the iceberg, underneath it was like, it was alone, it was sad. And I didn't know I had all this shame that was unconscious from both mom and from dad. And it was right at that time, I remember so vividly, I was turning 29 years old. I was in Hong Kong. I'd kind of reached the end. Like I had done the teacher trainings. I had done the travel. I had done, at this point, trained over 500 instructors, or from Hong Kong to Tokyo to Thailand. I was all over the map, and it was awesome because I got to basically travel around Asia and, share this technique with people. But, when you go home and you go to bed and you lean into right before you go to sleep, and there's this little tear in your heart. There's this little, you're not fully whole yet because you're still discovering who you are. You're still on that quest for your personal legend. You're getting beat down and you're beating yourself down by the journey. That I made the commitment again to go lean deeper into my spirituality. And what was the trigger was, like, at that moment, it was, okay, I'm going to go sit in ceremony with plant medicine in Thailand. And I did 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. And after 3 ayahuasca ceremonies with a shaman, you've seen your death. You've seen the worst. You have gone to the darkest place you can imagine in ceremony, where other people next to you sound like they are dying. And they are, because that plant medicine is very powerful. But what came out of it was this real awakening of, like, I am not that story. That conception of self is not me. I allowed it to be for so long because I was just unaware of the pain body that I had. And so it was through the work that I was doing with the shaman that was like, it got me back into my power. I eliminated the shame. I said, thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I did Ho'oponopono every day. I got into a place where I took my power back. I took it back from mom. I said, thank you, mom. But no, this is my personal legend. I took it back from dad, and I said, Dad, I forgive you. I'm happy you're happy, and you're now in a different place and in a different life. I took power back from my sisters, who I felt so much guilt from being away for so long. That big brother's not there to take care of or to be there. You know, it was a lot of that, like really digging deep into like the dark night of the soul. That was in the like end part of my 20s, where I was finally ready to tame my life again. And really the mentors, the shaman teacher, and the community that I had that was keeping like at least me 90% right. 10% I just needed to lean deeper into my own healing journey. So then, you know, finally I turned 30 years old, and it was like, okay, I'm done. I had enough. I had a wild, untamed 20s. I got to experience so much life. I got to drink through every single street in Tokyo, all the sake that I wanted. I got to party on the rooftops of all the hotels in Hong Kong. I lived it fully. You know, I really, really lived it fully without, and you know what? It's one of those things that Neville teaches is like, live with no regrets, because that was all part of the journey that was leading me to what was ultimately leading me to the portal experience. And it was at the portal. So if we like wrap up the wild 20s, the biggest lessons were, there are no regrets. Shift your concept of self back to that empowered state. Do the work. Do your work. Even if you don't know that there's something blocking you and you're still in this painful repetition, like you so want to be free, you see yourself free, but there's still something inside of you that's holding you back. Find the mentor, go into the woods and do the ceremony, take your power back. And then it was at that moment where I could finally Neville'ize my life again. I could Neville'ize my goals. I could get back. And now that I'm in my power again, it was like, okay, I remembered what it was like when I was on stage in New York. If I can do that, I can get over this little, substance abuse party. Let's go. Like, I got this. And it was really like it was the awareness of leaning deep into that concept of self that I wanted to bring back to the world, that new version of myself that I wanted to evolve into so badly. And finally, I turned 30 years old. I moved to Taiwan. I packed up all my stuff from Hong Kong. I said, I'm no longer doing this. Thank you, Hong Kong. It was a great time. And I moved to Taiwan. And I said, starting in my 30s, I am no longer going to drink. I'm no longer going to enjoy cannabis. I am in a new spiritual path. And the biggest piece of that was those things were blocking me so much from my true spirituality and like being able to Neville'ize my life. Like, in order to use your imagination effectively, you have to be clear-headed. That was such a huge thing. Like my imagination, where did that go? There's years of my life that it was so clouded. So now I could finally imagine my life again. Now I could finally feel, right? We talk so much about like feeling is the way, feeling into that state. When you're masking with substance abuse, you're numbing, you're not feeling. So it was like, now I can imagine, now I can feel, now I can be back in my power. And now I'm ready for like this next big chapter of my life, which was point. It was still kind of wrapping up my initial like big stunt in Asia. It was also that time that COVID happened. So as we move into like the next kind of section of this, like the big bridge of incidents was I came back to the US. I got out of Taiwan. It was a great year. I set up a company. I helped hundreds of people. We set up 5 locations. Taiwan was a bubble during COVID. So like where the rest of the world was shut down, Taiwan was still open for a while. So we were still working, which was kind of special and unique because they closed the border. I remember arriving 2 days before they closed the border and not being able to leave for 9 months. Like you're stuck on an island in Asia. And you're definitely not going to turn into, a loser and an alcoholic. You have a lot to do here. So let's get back into feeling. And so every single weekend I would go up to the hot springs and back into nature. And I was learning Mandarin. I was connecting to so many different people and learning how to teach these English-based classes to Mandarin-speaking students. Like there were so many challenges that were like enriching my life, right? Like I learned how to speak Mandarin so I can speak some good Mandarin. I learned all the nuances of learning how to navigate a real foreign country. Whereas Hong Kong's foreign, but like it's not until you're in a foreign country where they don't speak English that you're really in a foreign country.
Yes.
So then it was, all right, let's go. Let's get back to the States. I miss New York. My heart was there. I missed my uncle. I missed being with family. Like there was a long that I just didn't see my sisters. I was watching my nephew grow up over FaceTime. I was watching my sisters just through Instagram, and I just had this longing to like get back to my family. So I get back home. I kind of a little bit of an up and down kind of settling back into the US. Sometimes it's more culture shocking coming back to America than it is going to these foreign countries. I remember coming back, it was like, wow, this is so different. Like the Western way is so different from Eastern mind. And that's something that I hope to inspire people with in this call is go spend time where collectively it's about taking care of each other and where it's much more rooted in like a more kind of call it Buddhist, if you will, but just more peaceful way. Confucius, Lao Tzu, like these great masters way, way, way before some of the spiritual teachers that we study in later days. There's a special way with the Eastern mind that I knew that at that time I wanted to marry a Hong Kong woman. I wanted to be with somebody who had that mind. And here's where it gets even more juicy. So I come back, I see the family, I spend the summer here. Then I get the call, hey, 80% of your belongings are still stuck in Taiwan because I couldn't go back in. You have all this community in Hong Kong that you still that are like waiting for you for this event. You have to come. Okay, let's go. Jump back to Hong Kong. Spent 3 weeks in a quarantine. 3 weeks in a quarantine hotel when you're eating literally mush. Like imagine every day they send you they knock the door. It's a styrofoam box with mushy tofu, a scoop of rice, and an egg. And then every other day they would send a hazmat suit person into the room to COVID test you. And I spent 3 weeks. It was the greatest rehab I could have ever asked for. It was like, there is no way I would ever go back to that old concept of self having gone through this. Like if I can do this, there's nothing that's going to stop me from finding that Hong Kong wife. I don't know where she is. I don't know who she is. So while I'm in quarantine, I made the commitment I put it on my Bumble, looking for Hong Kong wife. And of course, I got 100 messages overnight, and I would spend my between playing my guitar, making my COVID quarantine YouTube videos, which I think are still on my YouTube channel, and then talking to girls on Bumble. At least it kept me entertained. I mean, full disclosure, it was a good 21 days of sitting in a quarantine during COVID. And
was this 2021, Tamer?
So no, this is right now we have flash forward to we got it. We came back to the US, spent some time with family, but I had all my belongings in Asia, like all my books, my guitars there, my clothes. I had all like 3 boxes of stuff that I wanted to go retrieve. And this was this was in September of 2021.
Okay, so about a year before you meet. Okay, all right. So we're coming into that last 1 year here of this
We're coming into it, and so this is where it gets even more exciting. So I'm now out of COVID, and I have 100 Bumble girls waiting to meet me. I'm like, I'm COVID free. Let's go. So I'm dating this one, and here we're going to my favorite coffee shop, and I'm also walking through Hong Kong with the new sense of dignity. Right. I'm no longer the guy that was partying through Hong Kong. I'm now really settled in who I am as a teacher that's been here for so long, like coming back to see my community again. It was, and I wasn't partying. I walked through the same streets that I would do like in my crazy 20s. Now, 31 years old, not drinking, not into that world at all, and really focused on what I was like, the calling that I had there. And little did I know that calling at that time. So yeah, exactly. So someone just posted in the chat, single and ready to mingle, full on. It was, let's go. It was back in my classes, and I had so much momentum after getting out of the quarantine that I got my Hong Kong permanent resident. So that's like a thing, man. Like expats wait 7 years to get a permanent resident ID card for Hong Kong. And I got it on Thanksgiving Day. I was so grateful. I was jumping up and down. I was live streaming my Instagram. I was calling everybody who made that possible for me, and just so overwhelmed with gratitude that now I can be here without having to have a visa and stay and thrive and inspire this community that I know. And like, it's kind of like, it's become a second home. Because I know there's 20 businesses that I was able to help set up. There's community, hundreds of students that I love to this day. There's dear, really close, like family type. You have your chosen family in this life. There's those people, like, and a lot of them are still living in Hong Kong. So I got my PR. I then launched a wellness retreat at the most beautiful area, like overlooking this beautiful, it's called Clearwater Bay, with this Thai guy who just wanted unique concepts at his, it's like a $10 million villa with like lounge, like overlooking the ocean, walk to the beach. And in Hong Kong, property is so crazy expensive that like when you have a villa like that, it was like 4 seasons of private villas. So we would go up there and do these beautiful yoga retreats where we'd use bamboo to tip people upside down. We'd bring in my sound healing guy, who was an amazing gong master. I brought in some of the other local teachers that have just been with me since day one to like co-teach. We were riding on this vibe of like, I'm now back. I thought I was going back to the US. I thought I was going back to New York, but like life was happening for me here, and I am on a new trajectory. And during that time, I was accumulating all this cool wellness technology. So I didn't have to tip people upside down in a yoga studio to help them with their back pain. I didn't have to tip people upside down or get them in a cocoon to help them get into the 4th state. I didn't have to, like, it was easier now with these new biohacking technology. And then I was also able to introduce it to Hong Kong, which it's not like LA or Miami or New York. They're still like waiting for the stuff to come. So when you have something cool, everybody wants to be a part of it. So like now we're building these cool new technology devices. We're in Hong Kong again. We have all this trajectory. Just got my PR so I can stay for as long as I want. And I got an investor who wanted to build out Tame Life Studios, right? So I have my company is called Tame Life. Like tame your mind, tame your body, and you can tame your life. And if you can tame the monkey in your head to use your imagination and feel into the consciousness that you want, if you can keep your body mobile and active and strong and vibrant and energized, then you can really create any reality you want for yourself. So that's the whole concept. And we get 3 parts of this studio. First is teacher trainings for adults. Second floor is for kids. Third part is for biohacking technology. It was set. during that time. Yeah, exactly. So right here is where I was working in Hong Kong. Across the road is where she was. Still never met. And this is Queens Road Central. So this is like Times, for anybody who's been to New York City, this is like Times Square or like Broadway of Hong Kong. Millions of foot traffic every day. It's like you're in the sea of people and right across the street the whole time. So I'm still on my journey of becoming my own personal legend. I thought I had it. I'm here. I know that something's going to break through. I'm that man, right? I'm not like the party boy anymore. I'm like in my 30s. I have a new career. I have something so special that I'm helping people with. And then right at it, like Lululemon sponsored it. All the Tame Life gear came. It was set to go. We were 2 weeks away from launch and COVID happened for me. COVID, if you don't know, in Hong Kong was one of the most restrictive cities on earth, which impacted the city for nearly 3 years of what they would call these waves. So the first wave I got out right before. Then it was wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, which I was out of Hong Kong during that time. Wave 5, I'm back. We're ready to launch. We have an investor, so a partner came in. We have all this momentum. The Hong Kong Bumble girls, we're dating, we're single, we're mingling. We're like, something's going to burst. And bang, little did I know that the whole thing just fell through the cracks right in front of my eyes. It was devastating. Like I thought it was so like when you reach that point and you're like, I thought I did this work. And then it's like another lesson and another lesson. And during it, I mean, when you're living in 100 square foot size studio apartment, 100 square feet, I mean, you can literally touch the sides. Their bathroom and your kitchen are in the same area. When you're like, I thought this was it. I'm hustling. I'm doing everything I can. And boom, everything just completely pulled out from underneath you. And it was like this moment that I'm like, I don't know what this is now, but something is happening for me here. And I'm not sure what it is. I know it happened for me because it really grounded me in my sobriety. Like I'm still now going on 4 years without a drop, right? Going on 5 years, actually 4.5. I knew it was happening for me because I got my PR. Like I knew something was happening. There was something in this that was coming but when you're in the thick of it and you go out on the streets and you can't even see somebody smile and it's just cold and dark and the whole experience went from like this beautiful light that I was sharing and shining and inspiring people with to like this dark, gloomy shadow. It was like that same shadow of like the rug being pulled out from underneath me when I was 18 years old and mom and dad split. Dad left, mom went into, depression. It was that same feeling, like this repetitive thing that just somehow manifested itself back into my reality. And it was right then that I went deep inside. I played my guitar at night. I used my lights to like keep me like healthy. My red lights, I used my brain lights, I used my singing bowl. I was like really keeping myself level because something was like, it was a tipping point. And it was right then that I called up my friends in Chiang Mai. We had some exchange and they said, get out of Hong Kong. We have something for you in Thailand. And little did I know that that was like the bridge of incidences that got me to you, because it was that moment of making the bold move to pack up all my stuff again. I packed it up, moved to Taiwan, and then moved it back. I'm like, I'm not doing this again, but we're going. I can't do this. I'm not going to sit through another wave of closures. Like Tame Life Studios ended up, that fifth wave was 7 months of complete closure. There was nothing. Everything was shut down. You couldn't sit at tables with more than 2 people. All yoga gyms, half of the studios that I helped set up, they all closed down. It's just this really relentless, like restrictive, heavy energy that then came back over Hong Kong. And I made the bold move to Chiang Mai. So this is
landed in Chiang Mai. So this is quite an epic plot twist in your story. So you're like, Okay, so we've kind of seen the cycles, right? So it's like you get there, you're untamed 20s, you're going nuts, you're feel like you're on top of the world, but also perhaps in kind of a, you're maturing, you're growing, but there's some unhealthy aspects to your state. You're partially embodying the man that you desire to be, but there's also some, youthful stuff, some, getting some of the wiggles out, in a manner of speaking. And then you go through this shift in state where you're turning 30. I think everyone on this live stream who is at least the age of 30 can speak or resonate or relate to this idea of hitting 30. And it's like the energy changes and life shifts a little bit, and maybe the priorities shift a little bit, and you start to think a little bit different, a little bit more long term. And so now you go back to Hong Kong, you're back in your groove. Now you've got an investor. Now you're opening your own thing. Like you said, you've got 3 floors in the Times Square equivalent of Hong Kong. You feel like you're on the rise, and you posted on your Bumble, "I'm looking for a Hong Kong wife." Now you joke that you got hundreds of messages, but I'm curious, like, what was your state of mind as you were getting back? Your career was your focus, but like, was the "I'm looking for a Hong Kong wife" post, was that just to get like the energy going, or was there a part of you that was also ready to really settle down and commit?
Great question. And that settled down and commitment came as soon as I got out of Hong Kong. It was,
So
I was
shift.
back in my groove. It was, my state was, we are about to do something this city has never seen before. And it became like my value at that time was was all because of my my career. And I knew that like it was my subconscious knowing that like I would find the Hong Kong wife. I was still on my personal legend. I was still looking for my treasure. I was in they call it the Pearl of the Orient. And I was dating, but like it wasn't right. None of them were right. Like there was when you know, and when you don't know, you don't know. And that's, Aristotle. No, I knew that this was a way of being, a place, a mind, like what we talk about, like a feeling into that experience of like being really, really happy and joyful and loving with a woman from Hong Kong. Something about it. I don't know what it was. I just knew that in my subconscious mind, I was creating a beautiful woman who was from Hong Kong. So
plot twist. So you have all this momentum. You're dating these women. None of them are fitting, but you know that you're moving in the right direction. And then plot twist, and also scene change, right? So we love. I love this. I love to kind of characterize the personal journey as like a stage play, and to kind of like adopt the perspective of being the author when we're writing our story, and we're both the author and the character is a part of us. It's like living in the 3D, and the author is a part of us that's imagining, what we desire, and like really kind of guiding the character. So you're playing the part of the character, you, like you said, you're in this good place, and then all of a sudden plot twist out of nowhere, and also scene change. And you said that's the beginning of the beginning of the bridge of incidents that leads you back to New York and to the portal retreat.
Exactly. That was the moment that I never gave up on the belief that I would have that Hong Kong wife. It never really left my subconscious belief. I knew that my treasure would be there. I just didn't know where I would find it. Right. I was still on my quest. Thailand, I connect to this technology. They need somebody based in the US. So it was go, build, meet, learn, grab as much of this product as I could, come back to the US, and let's rock and roll. I'm now living in downtown LA, and talk about a state change from beautiful mountainous rivers of Chiang Mai to zombie land of downtown LA, which really felt like is what it was every single day, like a war zone, just going to CVS. I was like the 180 degrees separation of difference from that. And then it was, what am I doing? What am I doing? I can't do this. I'm not, I'm not where I want to be. This is not the right place. Something is happening for me here, but I don't know what it is. And I still haven't found my treasure. And I'm hustling LA now, like where our clinic was and I was working in. I'm driving my car through LA traffic. For anyone who's been in LA traffic, it is an absolute nightmare. I was in this position where it was like, again, so the Bumble bio changed. Now it's not looking for Hong Kong wife. It's I am Tamer and I just moved back from Asia and I'm single and ready to mingle, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And because I knew in the back of my mind she was there, but I was now in a different environment. I'm now from the beautiful mountains of Chiang Mai to downtown Los Angeles, working full-time to develop a new product that's being introduced to the US market. Mm-hmm. And it was so brutal. It was like, okay, I'm not, no LA. I need to go back to New York. I need to go back to where my heart really is, which is in the beautiful jungle of New York. And it was right then that the moment that I got the call from one of your representatives who said, we need you at this experience. We want this technology. Josiah has tried it. There's a moment for you to talk and showcase it. So I left the car, left the goods at my buddies in downtown LA. I said, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going back to New York. I don't know what's happening, but I'm being called to go there. And around this world of like going through the struggle, going through the unknown, going through the plot twists, the ups and downs of discovering who I am, of packaging the pain body, of going through finding the mentor, finding the sacred ceremonies, getting really close to what I think I had found, which was that being in Hong Kong again, and I'm on top of the world, to now I'm in downtown LA getting my ass kicked. And it's like the part of the journey where it's the hardest right before you find it. Like you get to that like 90% and it's where most people quit. And it's like I almost felt like I was about to give up, like the rock bottom, living in my buddy's apartment in downtown LA in the summer, where across the street was a banging club. And I wasn't into any of that anymore. I was focused on healing and health and inspiring this type of, people with this new state change of getting them into fourth state. I was in a wellness clinic. I'm not going back there. But 2 a.m. every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, you're literally being woken up to that noise. And you go outside and you just see the sadness in the streets. And you're like there, and you just literally feel like you're getting your ass kicked every day trying to hustle and drive through LA traffic to get to work. And it's hot. And you're like, I'm not doing the bimbos here. I don't want any of this. The Hong Kong wife, I know she's out there. Let's go to New York. Let's go back to where my heart is. Let's go back to where I can finally be in that state of love again with my uncle and with the community that I know. And I get there and like Amazon Prime, I went around the world in search of my treasure, and she was right there where I left. Literally like a beautiful angel, like the same street that I got into a taxi cab to move to Asia 10 years later was waiting right there the whole time for me just to be the full embodiment of that man, to be able to say yes.
Okay, so you're at your high rise, the home that you had been living in New York City at various points in your life, and you were there getting ready to drive upstate to Menla.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Angela is flying from California, where she was shooting her documentary, and she landed in New York and was looking for a ride to carpool to upstate New York, Menla. So I'm being retreat host Josiah, and I'm trying to help coordinate logistics for everybody. Some people were taking the bus. Some people had their cars, so I'm trying to make sure everybody has a ride. And, so I'm like, Angela, you should go with Jennifer. And so we tried to get her connected to Jennifer, and there was some confusion or whatever. And I was like, no, never mind. Just just go with Tamer. Here's the address. So she, I think, drags her suitcase across the city to arrive at this address, which happens to be literally your doorstep. And she's ringing the doorbell. And you come downstairs and tell me about that moment.
You can know the person, like you know somebody's soul when you look into their eyes. And there was this eye contact moment of, you're from Hong Kong? Your name's Angela, like an angel? It was like, you know, when you film in portrait, like cinematic mode or portrait mode, and the whole world around you just goes blur, and the noise of the taxis in the cities and the people walking their dogs. I mean, we're at Midtown Manhattan in the heart of Hell's Kitchen on 43rd Street and 10th Avenue, where I spent all my summers from 8 years old growing up. That's my hood. Like, I know that place like the back of my hand. And it's this familiarity yet like unknown. It's this almost like, it's super cliche, but there was like a love in those eyes at first sight that just, when you know, you know. And it was that moment of like, oh, like a tractor beam, like portrait mode all around, like the rom-com moment of like all of that across the road from each other for so long, passing each other in the streets, getting our feet massaged at the same salon, at the same building, at the same floor, probably during the exact same time, and me looking over there like, hey, and boom, on like almost as if it was miraculously designed, because I had become that person that pushed out this version of the Hong Kong wife that I always dreamt of. And here I am. I've both my uncles. I'm driving uncle to go up to where he needs to be dropped off, and we're picking up another member. Uncle Chris is behind me, like witnessing this, and he's Uncle Chris. He's known me since I was born. He's like so close. He says there was something in that moment that was undeniable. It was like an earth-shattering moment, like a love bomb just blew up out of my doorstep, and it was the meeting of Tamer and Angela on the corner of 43rd and 10th, as she's literally lugging all of her baggage. I mean, 2 suitcases and a nice handbag across Midtown Manhattan, and I'm out front waiting like chipper, like, okay, here we go. We're driving up to Menla. Who's coming with? And it was 2 angels and a priest. Like, it was literally Angela, Elizabeth Angel, and her dad, who's a priest. And I'm here like, let's go. I'm Tamer. We're going to Menla. Jump in. I'm loading the bags in the back of this Jeep. And I remember like, it was kind of this blur. It was just like, boom. It was like a love bomb just was dropped at the front of my door. Like, as if I ordered it the night before. Like, God, I'm ready. Hong Kong wife, order. It'll be delivered to you tomorrow morning at 1 p.m. And here we are. And there was this like crazy radiance of like this push and pull, this like unknown, this like tractor being like drawn in. This, I know for any men out there, if you've had that connection with a woman, it's fucking scary. You're like, your whole mind is like, your heart's going. You're like, oh no, this is it. She's arrived. Oh, am I ready? Your head's spinning. It's very like an uncertain state of like, but you're now it's like, okay, now it's arrived. Now what do you do with it? Like, the love bomb was dropped in my lap, and I was now like figuring out how to put the pieces of that moment back together. Meanwhile, knowing that she's a professional being called, the priest is there being called, like we're all like being called to do this work together with you. So it was like us holding this standard of like, not going for, there's not a romantic retreat. It was,
Mhm.
I'm going there to present something. I'm a presenter. So
Mhm.
it was like this, like keeping it together slash like, oh my God, I just met the Hong Kong wife. And Uncle Chris is like,
Trying to keep the chill and focus on the present moment while also like love bombs going off. Yeah. Yeah.
explosion. Yeah.
Explosions. And so, okay. So from my perspective, being the retreat host, so obviously I saw sparks flying here. You know, I saw the magnetic moment, you know, from my perspective, but also like really focused on the group and on the work and like guiding the moment. So it was really interesting to see both of you, you know, have this whoa moment and then get in the car and then you arrive at Menla and then we're instantly plunging into the work, which is, you know, this is deep work. This is really working with, you know, the deep subconscious. This is working with the hypnagogic state, the portal state. You know, we are transforming, we are being reborn, we are really tapping into altered states of consciousness, you know, just organically, like, you know, just by doing the work and like really, you know, getting into the vibe. And then, you know, you obviously you're in a contribution role where you're actively, you know, presenting and being a brand ambassador, you know, for this technology. And that's a lot to handle. But, you know, it's like this, you know, everybody's going through this profound transformational experience and you're doing it, but also like, you know, that this is something that just happened, you know, on like a epic life story level. Like this is, you know, something just happened in my life. I just met this person. This is a monumental moment. And also you're moving into the portal together.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what it was, man.
Yes.
I think everybody there, they were like, wait, are you guys together? Like, I even one of the members like nudged Angela and like, oh, you and him are you're gonna be married and have 2 kids. And she's like, what? I just met this guy. And I just, and furthermore, that portal experience was so beautiful for me because it was like a sealing of that subconscious state that I had been working on. Remember, I started doing deep work with shamans and with mentors and with coaches. I was listening to my audios. I was really, really leaning deeply into my spirituality. I was Eckhart Tolle audios, and I was doing my Neville readings, and I was doing these empowerment courses with these shaman teachers that I had. So I was like really, really, I would say like at that point in time, like 98% really, really grounded and in my power. But it was this last little 2% that the portal like sealed. It was this beautiful healing that I got to connect to my father's higher self and just bring, because remember, as I shared earlier, he was adopted. So this abandoned shame of not enough was just tethered into his subconscious mind his whole life. And I, through that portal, went there. I remember flying my dragon down to that depth of pain. And I just pulled up this little boy that was just afraid and was scared and didn't know who he was. And I just rescued him and I just brought him into the land of love. And I just sobbed. I don't know if you remember, but I laid there just crying. I don't remember how long or what it was, but that was that night when Carrie was playing the bells and you were guiding the experience. I was so, that was a moment where King Fabian was born. Yes. Which was the name that came to me during that year, like choose a new name, right? That new concept of self of King Fabian was born that night, where I am now in my power as a man, just created this extraordinary, like, I don't even know what this is yet because I'm still in kind of professional mode. But like that was the sealing moment for me to be that version of myself, to be able to say yes to this Hong Kong, my now wife.
So I watched you go through a rebirth. We all did. You know, it's obviously a retreat like this. It's very intimate. The whole group, and we were, I don't know, maybe 16 of us. It's a very intimate experience for us to really witness each other go through these deep transformations. And for you, it was quite literally a rebirth. And I think it's such a beautiful, like, I find it to be such a beautiful aspect of your story that you really were born into that kingship state that you found within yourself. You were born in that way, and that was witnessed by this woman who's really your soulmate, but you're meeting her for the first time, who's going to become your wife, and she gets to see you go through that. And Fabian, I call you Fabian now because that's, like he said, we gave ourselves new names after this experience. So, Fabian, I watched you come out of that, and your complexion changed. The color of your aura changed. Like you were animating differently. Like your energy was so just so light and so free. And there was, you were talking about the sobbing, but like whatever came off of you in that moment, you just lit up like a Christmas tree on the back end of that rebirth. And I'm, and to have the partner meet you, and then to go through that portal together and to witness each other in that and Angela obviously went through transformations of her own too, that we all witnessed, but like to experience that together and then to come out on the other side, it's like not only meeting your soulmate, but meeting them, not at a bar, not at a club, not at, some whatever, like literally meeting at this life transforming, soul bond enhancing experience. Like, how remarkable from a manifestation point of view to like really stack the deck in that way, to have such a profound origin story of your union, because your union was born out of those moments.
Yeah. It's the fairy tale dream under the sky full of stars in one of the most spiritually, elevated, like geographical places on earth, under the dragons and the moon and the fairies and it was an orchestra of love that was there to celebrate our union, and the shooting stars that night, and the spirits of the wind, like everybody was there to just celebrate these people that met and went through this together, that traveled around the world and went through so many highs and lows and went through so many setbacks and so many, to find your treasure where you left it off, and then to go through the portal together and witness that and what we just were reborn into, both of us. It was life happening for us at its finest. And I am forever grateful for what you did to hold that space for the celebration of our origin to come together.
So Menla is a legendary location on this planet. The energies, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's the Catskill Mountains, which are legendary in and of themselves. But this particular little spot the energy there is absolutely legendary. It's I don't have a better word for it. And I know we have many members of that retreat on this live stream that are listening in on this.
Nice.
And I know all of you, I can remember and really tangibly feel how beautiful this energy was. And you talk about the dragons and the fairies, like literally this land, this little, this little pocket. It's like in a valley nestled between the mountaintops, in the Catskills, and it's autumn, and there's we have the whole place to ourselves. We were literally there was like a retreat that had just wrapped up, and then that week it was just the moons. And so it's very little light pollution, so the sky it's like the brightest stars, and we knew this was going to happen. I had done a site visit ahead of time, so I told everybody to bring red flashlights to like preserve your night vision. So everybody's walking around with red flashlights to see, and like none of the paths are lit, right? So you're like literally red flash, and then the sky is like, and you're talking about how romantic of a setting, and then the fire ceremony, right? With the cacao ceremony, with the bonfire, and we're burning away, the parts of ourselves that no longer serve. Yeah. And so I'm curious, do you want to share a little bit about what you burned away in that moment to prepare you to be husband King Fabian?
Well, yeah, I mean, as you just explained, you could not have a more down to earth, beautiful place, a mountain type of experience in the Catskill. There's remarkable. I mean, it's the Dalai Lama's place he goes to speak when he's in the U.S. It's the place where like one of the first asteroids in North America hit, and the native tribes for decades, I think generations, would go there because it was so sacred. Like you could just feel this vibrancy everywhere you walked. And then to look up at the sky at night and see the whole, you could see the Milky Way, all the shooting stars, every single one, like the most beautiful sky filled with stars you could ever imagine. It was right there. And our love was like the sky full of stars, just beaming from every cell in my body. And I didn't even really, like, I was still a little bit like holding back because I needed to still be, I needed to speak the next day. First of all, I was speaking, and I was also still in that place where I'm meeting people and they want to talk about the work I'm doing with this tech. And then we come to fire ceremony. We're doing cacao, which is such a beautiful, it's a ceremonial plant medicine for whoever's, you know, if you've ever experienced cacao, it's like such a grounding, it connects you so deeply to like that gut of your power, right? Just sits right in your gut, and you just feel this, again, like talk about an empowering ceremony. And then on the paper, I wrote down all the old aspects of my old concept of self. Those are already gone. Like, cause I had already just come out of portal. So like the old Tamer of like who I was as this identity, right? Which I was very proud of, but it was now that was done. So the identity of being, you know, the master trainer who's traveling the world, you know, bachelor for life, the guy who's turning Asia upside down, the tame your life coach. That this was all like, there was a huge layer of that came off there. And also the old shame and the pain body from mom and dad, specifically dad, because I let go of all of that, the emotional capacity expectation, right? Like we give so much of our power away to people we love unconsciously. And I had to let go of all that. You know, I'll always love mom and I'll always love dad, but I'm now King Fabian. Like I'm king of this castle and I've now found my treasure. So I love you and I let you go. I let you be free. You know, you've given me such a wonderful life, and now I can let you go and let you be free, and I can thank you and I can forgive you. And I can say, I'm sorry for being such a relentless little shit growing up during my teenage years as I was just discovering who I was. And sorry, mom, for running away and joining the circus and not becoming a dentist and taking after grandpa's Harrison's practice. You know, and then it was just, I love you. And it was a lot of that was what I was releasing, was mostly just this lineage, shame, the guilt of the past, the mistakes that I made that were still unforgiven. And then the childhood events of just growing up in that very small-minded culture that at that time was really painful. You know, not fitting in, not being able to play ball, feeling like, you know, I wasn't ever really included. Like all that just boom, burned away. And now here I am dancing around the fire as King Fabian with Queen Rainbow under a sky full of stars as these newborn, be completely reborn in these new identities with new concepts of self, with a whole new state. Like this state, like you say, talk about like light. Light was just beaming from every cell in my body. I was pure gratitude. Pure gratitude. That was it. And it was from that moment on. I mean, that fire ceremony was so fun because it was also that moment of celebration. Right? We just went through that shit together and you're still with me. Okay, let's go. Like let's talk. Let's sit by the fire and like learn about each other. You know, we stayed up till 4 a.m. just looking at the stars. And there was nothing physical that happened at that retreat. Nothing. It was like, nope, we're going to just talk. I'm just going to connect to your soul. We're just going to, and that was part of it. That was a huge part of it that I want all the especially the men to remember, is like when you call her in and you say, she's going to be spiritually hygienic. I started with that layer of abundance because I didn't want anything else than like a real, like a spiritual goddess. It was a spiritually hygienic goddess that intelligently is smart and filled with knowledge, and then emotionally is filled with joy and love and filled with adventure and believes in miracles, and was physically the sexiest little Hong Kong Asian girl I could have ever possibly manifested. Physically, you know, I went through this checklist of spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, these forms of abundance that I wanted to have as that next person that I am going to meet, and she is going to be mine. And when I know it, I'm going to know it. And God, bring her in. Yes. And I was like in that state right before meeting her. So like, talk about Nevilleizing your wife, get it on a level of spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, and celebrate it as soon as you can. Because as soon as you get into the celebration of like, that next woman that I meet is going to have all these things, and that's going to be the person that I say yes to and that I ask to marry. And then when we're doing fire ceremony, I just burn away anything else that's going to block us, anything else that might, any little bits of anything else, just scramble everything else that could possibly interfere with that state. And boom, now you're dancing around a beautiful bonfire in the mountains with her.
Absolutely magical, Tamer. And I can't help but feel like you've kind of raised to the bar on that whole, so how'd you two meet? Well, let me tell you a story. Absolutely amazing. So we've got Angela, your beautiful bride, in the chat, and she's watching. She's there at home with you. She is watching over your beautiful 1-year-old son, Leo. Congratulations on your beautiful child to both of you. So lovely. You sent over, or Angela sent over some pictures and videos that I got to just rejoice at his absolute adorableness. Absolutely amazing. So let's move into a little bit of Q&A. We've got the chat with us, and everybody on YouTube. You all are so amazing, and I'm just really feeling the energy here. We are loving this story. This is it's inspiring. We like loving not only the details and the twists and the turns and the adventure, but also just the way that you're communicating the personal evolution that, the stages that you've gone through, the evolution, the spirals. We talk a lot in this channel about the spirals of time. Time is not a timeline. It's a circle and really a spiral where we come back to the same place that we were, but we're a different person experiencing similar circumstances. And it's really the difference in consciousness. So there's a question in the chat here that I wanted to bring to your attention. This is from Elena, one of our channel members. And Elena wrote, if you were to write a letter, Tamer, to your 30-year-old self, before, pre-King, is Prince Tamer, who becomes King Fabian, right? Yeah. You were to give Prince Tamer some encouragement. What would you say to support your past self in the more challenging moments when it was tough to really be consciously in the end of being that King Fabian that you desired to be?
Oh, man, I love that question so much. Thank you for asking that. And that question in itself just brings me into this state of I'm just so filled with gratitude for that person that I had the courage to be back then in my 30s. Remember, I turned 30 in Taichung, Taiwan, which is a small little, it's not Taipei, it's central Taiwan. Pretty much with maybe a couple friends that speak mostly Mandarin, and making the commitment that I'm never going to drink alcohol again. And so what I would tell myself is, good job, man. If you can do this now, and you can just make this the rest of your life, you will forever be happy, and you will always have love. You will always be healthy. You will have such an extraordinary reality to be able to use your light that you were given to help change people's lives with your story. Just keep going. You got this. Good job. Proud of you. Proud of you for making your 30s a decade of no substance abuse, not a drop since. And I would also tell that 30-year-old self, like, stay the course of your commitment. Don't waver. You've now made the decision, and the universe is conspiring. It's conspiring for you. Now just believe in yourself. Believe that you have the power. Believe that you have the energy. Don't let your mind take you back to the comforts of it, because it's hard. You're alone in a small flat in a foreign country. You can't speak the language. You're studying Mandarin Chinese with your tutor. 5 days a week I'm teaching. So it's like I had community at work, but I was spending my nights mostly alone. And so it was just, and it would be, so proud of you. Good job. Stay the course. Follow that heart, follow your heart towards that outcome that you really know, like that treasure that is out there. Keep following that, and never waver from your true north.
I love that, Tamer. And I want to really make a distinction, or go a little deeper, or kind of surface something that you're getting at. So one of the things that you're really highlighting is this commitment to being sober, and kind of like letting go, really letting go of your relationship with substances. But really underneath that, so that might be the evidence, but really underneath that is a shift in state. You went from the person who needs something on the outside to ingest to feel a certain way, to the man who says, I'm taking my power back. I'm choosing to manifest feeling the way that I desire to feel without needing to ingest something on the outside. That's my interpretation, but I want to hear it from your perspective. Like there's a state shift. Can you articulate, again, the getting rid of substances is the evidence, but what is the state that's creating the evidence?
The state was, I am confident, I am clear, I am enthusiastic. I got this. Give me the power that I need. Give me the strength that I need to inspire myself and others, so that I can leave these people with the most life-changing experience and live the life that my heart truly desires. It was like moving into that. And every morning I would prime myself, right? I'm on my motorbike driving through town, beep, beep, like watch out for the traffic. In these countries, it's all motorbike. And it's this priming. So every day I would just prime myself. In my move, I'd make this move, like I'd slam my chest, because my mind would go, oh, but wait, the little monkey, he wants to tease you. He wants to, oh, look at that. There's a shiny object. Oh, but what there? Here. It was, no, I'm confident. I'm clear. I'm enthusiastic. I'm born for greatness. Give me the power I need to inspire myself, so that I can leave these people that I'm here today to live a better, healthier life. So I would do this like repetitive, like change my physicality immediately. And a lot of it is through breathing. So I breathe, get myself into state, say my I am, and then it immediately, it just gave me the fuel. It was the fuel that kept me in that state through during that time after I just turned 30.
That is such a powerful state of being. And thank you for really articulating what that felt like, and the behaviors, the mental discipline, the frame on your life, on your reality, on your presence, the priming. All of these are key clues as to really that ideal, because obviously that was the ideal for you, and you were graduating into that. And that's beautiful. Okay, so this is your opportunity, everyone on YouTube who has any questions or any comments, anything they would like to have Tamer speak about, go ahead and pop those in the chat. We have a little bit more time with him. He's a busy man. He's got a family waiting for him. So this is your chance. Ask away. Anything that you would like to hear from Tamer here as we begin to wrap up. Anything about the story, Tamer? While we're waiting for those chat messages to come in, there are men and women in this community, and specifically hearing the sound of our voices right now, who are very much feeling ready to meet that soulmate, in a place of maybe certainly having gone through a lot of personal development, a lot of evolution, and they're hearing you speak and they're feeling, a lot of resonance and a lot of connection with, yes, I'm ready for to have a magical experience like this. Tamer, what would you say to someone who's hearing the sound of your voice right now, who's listening, and you have the chance to plant a seed of potential? What would you say?
Neville's her or him into reality. Close your eyes. Imagine what he or she looks like. Go into your safe space where the wind is blowing in her hair, the sun is shining on her face. You can feel the most love from your heart you could possibly imagine. The joy that she's smiling as she looks over to you and you're listening to your favorite song, the smell that's coming off the ocean breeze or from off her perfume. Like, go into the imagination of the nuance of it, which is part of what I would do every day driving through that LA traffic. There was one moment where it would be like right next to the ocean, and I would roll down the windows and I would close my eyes and I would just see her hair blown in the wind. And I knew that she had that spiritual goddess, that mental clarity and intelligence, the emotional love, ready to lean in, the physical beauty that just lit up every cell in my body. And I used my imagination. That Nevilleized her or him into reality. And then feel every single aspect of it and do it every day. It's the reason why what Josiah teaches is so prolific, is because these are the secrets to the universe that work. Just have the discipline to do it and get yourself into a place where it's fun. And close your eyes and feel like, oh, the joy, like almost like it's Christmas Eve and you're about to get the best gift you've ever imagined, which is like a potential like life, like the mirroring of yourself in somebody else, where the love that you thought you knew in previous relationships is it's unimaginable. The depth of love that is about to open up, that's untouchable from your heart. So yeah, like get excited for it and imagine her or him into being, and use the different layers of abundance that you want, right? Because we sometimes get stuck in talking about like the physical, but there's more. Like what's her emotional state? What's her intellect like, or his intellect? What's the spiritual component of it? Go there. I always like teaching my students, like, go from the top down. Get spiritual first, then lean into like how he or she is mentally. Like, what mental abundance do you want to see in that version of your partner or your future relationship? Then what's their emotional state? Where do they ground themselves? Where's their home? Right? Are they home in joy and love and gratitude? Are they home? Like, what is that? Their emotional house. And then what is the physical? The physical is fun because you can really lean into like the imagination of the physical is the easiest. But if you can hit all layers of abundance, you bring it more specifics, and the specifics are what make it so juicy in visioning or Nevilleizing him or her into reality.
Fantastic. So the question from Zay is, did you write a list describing? It sounds like yes. It sounds like you did. So I have to ask though, did you write it down physically on a piece of paper, or was it mostly just here?
I'll be honest. For Angela, I knew she was out there, and I was in my state every day. I was priming myself every day. I did not write it down. She was one that I didn't write down. It was something much bigger than I could ever put into words on paper. It was I'm driving in my car with my favorite song on the radio, just crushed an amazing day at work, and I'm now finally out of LA traffic, So I'm like through like, yes, I'm back into my beautiful part of the drive. Like I'm back in joy, back into that feeling of like joy and happiness. And I'm about to, I'm about to be at that place, the atmosphere that makes me feel most alive, right? Your surroundings, like the reality of where you are is so important. We create our reality. So create one that makes you feel joy, because from that place of joy, you can manifest anything. Right. So there was that moment. I'm in my car. I turn on my favorite song. I say, let her, she's spiritually a goddess. She's mentally clear. She's focused. She's smart. She's knowledgeable. I just would pound every single thing I could. She's emotionally joyful. She's grateful. She's rooted in love. She comes home to a place of peace. She's ready. She's an emotional state of like readiness. She's physically the sexiest woman I've ever laid my eyes on. Every cell in my body just fires up. As soon as I see her, the next woman I'm going to meet is going to be her. Bye. I got this. And then there she is right there as I look out over the Pacific Ocean with the sun setting. And it's like, it's already there. So like a big part of it was how there's no more needing to be like in the desire of it. The desire of it, it's like, I'm free. It is done. She's right there. Mm-hmm. I'm free. It is done. So like every time I would think about it, I had primed it so much. It's an exercise. Like you have to prime. Like you have to go. The more you train, the stronger you get. The more you train, the stronger it gets. The more you prime that state, the stronger it is. So I had primed it for so long that I could just live in it, of like 100% belief and faith that I am free. It is done. And she's right there. She's right there.
This is so inspiring, Tamer. And I can't help it, man. I am grinning from ear to ear. Hearing you, I can't stop smiling. This is so good. And I know that our listeners are in a similar place if they're paying attention to this. This is, can't stop smiling. This is so lovely. So Orlena has a beautiful question. So, okay, so you're in this state, you are priming, you know exactly what you want. You are a match for it. And then that moment when you meet and you start to like, you're sharing a car together, you're sharing a drive together, like around this woman, you're like, whoa, how did you know? Like, how did you know that she was it?
Man, I love that question. For anybody out there who meets a significant person in your life, it's like a mix, man. It's a mix of emotions. It's like it's not just like love. It's like love and fear and joy and I'm afraid and this is it, but am I ready? And that's the Hong Kong wife you've dreamt of. It. It's that moment of like, almost like you just hit the jackpot and you're like, now you need to figure out what to do now that it's arrived, right? You just won the Powerball. And now what do you do once you have it, right? It's like, that is the treasure. I just found my treasure in my life. And now, like, don't screw it up. Okay, what am I saying? Oh, it's like, it's this beautiful, emotional roller coaster initially, to that point where then it's just, you just settle into like, oh yeah, you made it finally. Like, thanks for coming to breakfast. So like the moment that I remember, like the moment that I knew was, and how did I know? It went from this like roller coaster of excitement and joy and fear. Like for any dudes out there, especially, like you meet that person, you're scared. You're scared shitless. And I mean, even for anybody, like it's that whole thing of like relating at a deep level of connection, when your whole entire body knows, your emotional state knows, your mind is the thing you have to get out of, and you just lean into your higher self. And when you go into that place of like, oh, my higher self has known you this whole time. Like, you finally came to breakfast. Thanks for showing up. Took you long enough. I had to go around the world to find you. It was the moment of being fully in my power, and there were no more layers of like healing or deep wounds or like personal pain bodies or shame, or like I had no more power to take back from anybody. I was just fully vulnerable, open, and real, and in that like beautiful place after our portal that night, that we came down to breakfast, and there she was, and we're having a coffee. I'm like, damn, you are the one. And in my mind, I just knew it in that moment. So how do you know? You know, because it is this like burst of emotional, for me, it was a burst of emotions. And then it was like a settling into like, oh, duh, of course you're the one. It took you long enough. Like a boom, then like a whoa, and then like a if that makes sense.
Okay, so there you go, everybody. Boom, whoa.
Yeah.
that's the roller. Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
love bomb goes off. Now you're gotta navigate it and stay cool. Don't screw it up. Stay in state. You feel into it. Connect to your higher self. Come back, right? Come back to your center. And then just lean in and trust. The number one principle is you have to trust it. Just trust. The more you trust, the more you can experience the beauty of it. You have to just overcome whatever you remember. You've burned all the past. So the past is gone. You don't have any other layers of trust or that's going to get in your head. You're like, I trust it. Are you ready? Okay, come to LA for 6 months. She's like, 6 months? I'm like, all right, well, I have a trip to Japan. You're gonna have to follow me to Tokyo. Can you keep up? She's like, yep, I'll be there. Wow. Flew to Japan. She meets me in Tokyo. I take her to Kyoto because I was doing a teacher training tour through Japan, and which is just a beautiful country. I'm like, okay. I go to a little tiny jewelry shop in Harajuku, Tokyo, and I find these rings. And at this point, I'm just like, trust, just trust. Yeah. This is it. Just trust. You just went through the portal together. Just trust it. You got this. You got this. Get the rings. We go through the bamboo forest of Kyoto. For anybody who's ever been to Japan, it's the most magical place. Like the eastern version of Catskills is Kyoto. And we end up at this it's like a kimono village, a kimono forest with lit up, like almost like all the gods, all the spirits, all the angels had a rolling out the red carpet for me to ask her to marry me next to a dragon pond, a giant, an orb that was meant for making wishes and meant to bring protection to anybody who makes wishes here. In front of a dragon pond with kimono lights in the bamboo forest. And I'm just like, okay, drop down. Will you marry me? And it was like the wind just rushed in and the stars lit up even more. And everybody around was like, say yes, say it in Japanese. Arigatou gozaimasu. They're all screaming on the side. And it was that moment that I asked her to marry me in Kyoto, Japan. So to answer that question in a very short way, go through the emotional roller coaster, connect to your higher self, come back to your center, and just trust it. You have to just trust it.
We have a question from Marcio going a little deeper here. Because I think this is a really part of the story that a lot of us can really relate to. And that's exactly what Marcio is saying in the chat. He's saying the parental wounds, giving power away, those things I can relate to, as I'm sure many can. How did you know exactly what the roots of each wound were, and how were you able to finally heal and let go at the retreat?
That's a great question. I'm so thankful for that question, because it allows me to go back into and to share this story of the first and foremost step of empowerment is to identify and eliminate the shame. Call it pain body, call it shadow, call it whatever, but there are layers of it. You have shame, which is you're not good enough. The abandonment issue that was subconsciously passed down to me from my dad. I didn't know that I was carrying all that weight on it. It was like a backpack of bricks that I was carrying around for so many years and I didn't even know it. And it was the thing that led me into these repetitive like patterns. It was the thing that made me like go into my own self-abandonment of my own and to numb out because I didn't know what it was that was just pushing me to be alone. So how did I know it? I was like really leaning into like go deep into yourself and identify this with as much vulnerability as you can. What layers of shame you have, whether it be lineage, something that was passed down, like you're not good enough, whether it's some guilt, like you made a mistake and now you're guilty, whether it's some like mistake that you made consciously that was unresolved, or whether it's like a childhood wound that you can remember that you can tap into. Identify which one of those four and then do the work on healing it. Find the shaman, find the mentor, find the teacher, go sit in the woods, go up to the Catskills, get into nature or wherever the atmosphere, the environment you need to be in so that you can work to eliminate it and go in with the intention of like, I'm going to eliminate this pain body. It's like the onion. You have to go deeper. You have to peel off the layers of the onion to get to the center. And that center is I am. But in order to get there, the I am of the center of who we are, it's a journey. Like, dude, transformation is brutal. The butterfly almost dies trying to get through a cocoon. Like, so when you're in a transformational journey, the first thing you identify is like, what are the layers of what is the shame? Do the work, go through it. Know it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's the greatest thing you could ever do for your life. Or else what happens? You just repeat. The chain link continues. For me, I made it a must that the chain stops here. The patterns stop with me. None of this shit's going down to my son. No way. So it was like a real commitment to doing my inner work. And again, like I'm so thankful for the mentors and the teachers that I had, because this should be something that you get help with, right? If you are stuck and you don't know what it is, get a coach. Go to a ceremony, sit with circles of people who are talking about it. You know, one of the best groups that I found, I'll be very transparent here. One of the most beautiful circles that I've met are the people at AA. You will hear the stories at these circles. It is like, talk about inspiration, man. Like I went to a couple just because I wanted to be around the right people. These people, like, wow, talk about being around people that will then get you into the second stage, which is taking power back. Man, it's such a great gateway, because it's like, okay, now I know what I need to eliminate. I do the work. I get the help. I go to the circles. I surround myself with people who are also doing the work. I know that transformation is brutal. I might die. You're not going to die, but it's like the part of you dies, right? Part of you has to be burnt away. Part of you has to leave behind in the portal. Part of you has to go through a ceremony where you come out like reborn. Like, let that part of you die so that you can take your power back. Because it's not until the majority of all that has been done that you can then get into a place of, now I can take my power back from it. Dad, mom, sisters, whatever, whoever it was that either took my power from me or I gave it to them. And in my case, I was giving my power away unconsciously. So it was like, what am I doing? I'm shooting myself in my foot. The love that I have for these people was actually something that I was giving my power unconsciously away to. So I stopped that, take my power back, do the work on it, do the ceremony. Ho'oponopono, man. If you don't know about his teachings, they're really, really powerful. Just have a look at your dad and tell him, I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. And just do that. Do that a few times. If you don't know who or what it was, maybe just start there, right? Ho'oponopono, take your power back. And then the most important step is to get back into Nevilleizing your life. Mm-hmm. Get back into what form of abundance am I creating? get back into what's the next, okay, I've done this. I'm not going to live here. Just get over this so that I can be back into my place of power and back into the life I want to live. Right. So it's like step into the abundance you want to create. Is it spiritual, mental, emotional, physical? What is it? Start Nevilizing it. Go through that process, make it the discipline, and then just be it. Right. It's the becoming it where she shows up at your doorstep. It's the becoming that man that, you're living your dream. It's the becoming of that version of yourself after you've eliminated the shame and you've taken your power back and you've Nevilized your goals. It's the becoming of it where you're able to then, to step into the I am.
Amazing, Tamer. Amazing answer.
That was kind of a mouthful.
There's so much here. You are schooling us tonight. This is amazing. You're giving a master class, and it's all just coming from the heart. It's so totally beautiful. And Marcio is saying thank you so much for that vulnerable answer.
You got it, brother. You got
so it. Beautiful. And Carrie's chiming in here. This is a crazy high energy episode, and I have to agree. Like I said, I really just can't stop smiling with this story and just this celebration of love and of personal evolution and self-development and imagination and everything that Neville talks about, and just the soulmate and partnership and marriage and now children. There's just so much here, and it's so beautiful. And Tamer, thank you so much.
Thank you
for being just such an embodiment and blessing us with this energy by just really the story, the narrative. Like I feel like we've had a chance to walk the journey in a manner speaking with you and get the benefit of the cliff notes, right? Like, hey, this is what's important. This is what you can take to the bank. And that's such a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for that. So I know we have,
thank you.
I know we have Angela watching this, and all our love to you, Angela. And is for those of you that didn't catch part 1 with Angela, definitely check it out. It was so good. Same thing. Could not stop smiling. Such a beautiful story, and it's so unique and rich to get it from both perspectives, from Angela's perspective, from Tamer's perspective, and Tamer, Angela, you are together an incredible power couple, and I'm really excited to know more about what you're creating together. And I also know that Angela is a teacher, and she's having walked this path, she's now helping thousands of people to walk a similar path through her courses. So I just wanted to mention that a little bit. I know you guys are working together on the courses, on the platform, on the trainings. Can you just talk a little bit about those courses? There's a link in the description for those of you that might be curious. And if you've listened to Angela, you've listened to Tamer, you're like, yeah, I feel like I could learn from these people, right? Because that's what it comes down to. It's like, everybody has courses, but when you find your teacher, and so if you're hearing Angela, you're hearing Tamer, and you're like, I could learn from these people, this is your chance. But Tamer, tell me a little bit about these courses from your perspective.
Yeah. And you know what? This is just part of our calling. Like, we are called to share the story, to help and to do the best we can to help humanity. And and in this case, it's about bringing people the greatest, value in life, which is not money. It's besides your time. The greatest assets that we have in life are our relationships. And if we can help people have what we have, we can leave this world a better place. And that's really how this whole thing was born. Like, I had Tame life coaching, which I was doing and have been building for many years. She had Magic World of Angela. So we just said, let's just combine. It's like the perfect yin yang combo of how we can bring our story to inspire others to have what we have. And that's really what it comes down to. So we brought all the best of Angela's teachings together. We brought it's like the feminine and the masculine, right? You have both of these that come together and are just married so beautifully to be able to help others achieve. and to learn, most importantly, first to learn and to become aware of the teachings to be able to achieve and to have as the outcome, which is, the dream love, the fairy tale romance, however you want to label it. But we created a program in a course so the school is called Magic Love Academy. And under the Magic Love, because we have a magical love story, right? So we have the Magic Love Academy.
We can all agree on that part. Yes, very magical.
So the Magic Love story, we put together all of our years of experience in coaching and created the Magic Love Academy. And at the Magic Love Academy, what makes it special is that it's the only manifesting school and coaching in the world that you can learn it in English, Mandarin, and Cantonese. So she is kind of a unicorn in the space where she has helped thousands. I'm talking thousands of people, and is on calls every single day, helping our community in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, Malaysia, and in China. And where I bring kind of the masculine aspects of the coaching, like get you in state, get you the outcomes and the results you need, prime you with the tools that help me. Right. And some of them it's technology. Some of them it's breath work. Some of them it's just getting your head into the right getting your brain into the right wavelength. Mm-hmm. So we brought all of our experience together to the Magic Love Academy to really help people learn the tools of manifesting, uncover whatever the blockages are, because a lot of it is there. A lot of it is in the psychology of how to overcome what's holding you back, then apply the teachings of manifestation. And a lot of it is like what the greatest teachers of the world are teaching. And we've just put our spin on it, and we've put our story on it. And now we help people. So we have two English courses called Last Stop True Love and 88 Days. Last Stop True Love, get your story, get out of your head or else you're dead. Clear whatever baggages and blockages are holding you back. And then in 88 days, we guarantee you, or we give you full refund, that if you do not manifest your true love in 88 days, here you go, take your money. We'll see you next time. And we'll be there to help you. Like, wow. We believe so strongly in this because we've helped so many people have this type of love that do the work in Last Stop, come to 88 days, and you will be with your dream person, your fairy tale prince or your queen, in 88 days or less, or no risk at all. And so, and then if you speak Chinese or Cantonese, she has 5 other courses. So for our Chinese audience, she has the transformation course about physical well-being. She has the abundance course about helping people with money. She also has like the specific person. She has a lot of content that she's teaching to our community in China. And we look towards ultimately getting that into English as well, so we can serve our English community of listeners as well. But right now, 2 English courses, and then another 7 of them are in Chinese.
Fantastic. Okay, so there are links to those, to the Magic Love Academy and to the courses in the video description. And then also you've arranged for a special discount for anyone who's been on these live streams.
That's right.
You can type in the discount code that's also in the video description. And just because
you have questions like beforehand, like reach out to Josiah, find a way to get in touch with us. I know there's a lot of like questions about this, especially if you're looking to buy a course from a coach. So please don't hesitate to reach out and just ask. And if anything, we can just do our best to serve you, because we want you to have the magic love story that we have.
Thank you so much for that, Tamer. And just thank you for your service. Like what a beautiful mission to be on. I just, so we all, as we were talking about in the story here, so you came to Menla to present a specific type of technology that uses flickering light for brainwave entrainment. And I want to bring you on for an episode of Neville and Chill where you just talk about priming and about health and neuro type technology. But I also want to just, if you can give like a very quick, I'm just going to pull up the website here. So this is the technology that you not only helped develop, but also have been building a global presence for. Can you just talk about this? Just give us your, you're expert at elevator pitching this, right?
Just in a nutshell, guys, especially if you're a follower of Neville and you're one of Josiah's students, you know the value of getting into state and practicing imagination. And so when I first discovered this flickering light with sound experience called the Neurovisor, it is like it's like the perfect piece of technology to get your brain into imagination and to rewire it towards what you want. I'm not kidding when I say I put this thing on when I was working in LA. I closed my eyes. I wanted $10,000 so that I could go to New York and live my summer there. And no joke, I got out of that session and my boss said, "Oh yeah, here's $10,000 check to go to New York City. Have a great summer." It is unbelievable. And the science behind this is just profound. It's a science called neuroplasticity, but kind of like heart rate variability, where your heart fluctuates with your breath. So does your brain. And so our board of medical directors are developing this whole new field of science called brain wave variability. So it's way beyond just entrainment, where it's actually engagement and enrichment with flickering lights, with light and sound towards a desired outcome. So whether you're an athlete and you want to train, get your brain primed before you go to the gym, whether you're a meditation expert and want to get into that state much quicker, right? We all know how good meditation is, but it's hard to get into that state sometimes because of life and the monkey. And it's also takes a lot of practice. So talk about a hack for your brain, man. I'm such a believer on this because I've witnessed firsthand the thousands of lives, not just me personally, but through our community, through our Facebook page and our circle community of people who are having unbelievable, from deep traumatic, like vets with PTSD that are now sleeping for the first time in decades, to even my sister who's been struggling with an opioid addiction, who she didn't, for the time she was using it, she didn't want to use, to the people who are using it every day to just improve sleep and change your state. Angela and I do it at night together. We're like the crazy couple on the couch, like doing our neurovisor with our light and sound. Okay, let's do it at the same time. Ready, go. We're going to do the chakra massage tonight. Okay, perfect. And so, yeah, I'm just really passionate about this because if you want to minimize the amount of time it takes to get into an imagination state and maximize a potential trait change, meaning not just make me feel sleepy and sleep better, but like really lean into like one of our microdosing protocol to end any trauma that's going on in your brain, or train your brain to sleep more naturally with its natural circadian by giving you what we call SATs in Neville. We call the fourth state in it's also known as the fourth state of consciousness. So when you give your brain that state that is so rarely experienced nowadays, the state before you sleep, right? The state akin to sleep, that's where all the magic happens. So this is something that I would love to really deep dive in and go through all the science and really geek out with your audience, because I do believe that if you're a Neville follower and you are somebody that's in this community that really wants to just take your life to the next level, this is the thing. And you heard Angela's story. She connected to her late father, who passed away a few years before she met me, and let him free. It was something that was blocking her subconscious mind from being able to have the man of her life. And for me, I was doing it also. I was getting into that, like embodying that wish fulfilled with this, because it just immediately takes you in, immediately puts you in that hypnagogic experience. So really excited we can do another chat and deep dive into the science, but it's called Neurovisor. And we use light and sound to boost neuroplasticity, to enrich the brain. And it's just really fun. So if you go on Dave Asprey's channel, the one, like the king of biohacking, for anybody who knows that space, he just came out with a cool video that endorsed it. Ben Greenfield, like top thought leaders in this space, are now all we're actually just this week published in the New York Times, because one of our devices was at an event down here in Miami, and now it's like we have a New York Times article. So it's blown up. It's super cool. And if you want to learn more, we can deep dive into it on another session. And I'm also happy to answer any questions you might have about Visor. But yeah, this is the device that connected me to my wife. If it can happen for me, it can happen for you. And we look forward to sharing it with you guys.
So I'm a big fan of all things consciousness, and I love consciousness technology. It's just part of something about the evolution of technology that we're experiencing in the liquid modernity of the current era that just lights me up. Like I love not only my natural technology of my imagination, I also love things that people are inventing that interface with consciousness. So when I've known about brainwave entrainment, obviously, and having the opportunity to bring you to Menla specifically for a portal retreat to demo, not because, in a SATS retreat, we're practicing natural ways of getting into the hypnagogic state. And then we're also using technology just to have like a variety of experiences. We did light entrainment. We did sound entrainment with binaurals, getting into different states of consciousness using both tools and then also just using our normal state. So I'm a big fan of this. I own a neurovisor and I have used it extensively. I've had a lot of experience with it and I love it. I know some of the people that went to the retreat that ended up buying them, and we still chat about it. And it's years later. We still talk about the device. We still talk about our experience with it. And then also all these new programs, they keep updating and keep, creating new programs. And the microdosing thing, that was something recent that was just released on the Neurovisor platform. So had the chance to go through several programs of that. And for me, it's enriching, there's a deep level of experience to it. So I appreciate, obviously being a brand ambassador for them and helping them build the company. You're so fluent at describing what the technology is and like really laying it. But let's bring you back at a later date to really talk about this technology because you have such a depth and breadth of experience and knowledge about it. And also in the meantime, for those of you that have had your interest piqued about, hey, what is this, brainwave entrainment, and maybe this is something that you'd be interested in learning more about, there's a link to this in the video description, the Neurovisor. And also because of Tamer's relationship with the company, he was able to arrange for a discount. So if you decide to purchase a Neurovisor and you use that link, there's a discount code there that you can plug in, and you'll get a great deal on the product if you purchase it.
Off. Get it now, 20% off.
Get it now,
yeah. Deal.
And we have.
Are you jumping back on and learning more, diving into the tech, because we could do a whole hour just like geeking out about tech and consciousness and the success stories and I love that you're still using it. And actually today, believe it or not, Michael, if you remember Michael,
I remember Michael. Yeah.
He is in Key West. He wants to be a reseller. I think he's going to order like 10 of them and do multi-visor experiences. So now you can have, 10 people at one time all getting into that beautiful state together. So I just talked to him today about it.
Shout out to Michael Collins, if you're listening.
Michael Collins, and then our good friend out in Hawaii, Maggie. We stayed at her house in Hawaii. She's a dear friend of ours. She's become like a fairy godmother of Leo. She still raves about it. And it's just one of these devices that not only is it so enriching for your life, it becomes a wellness routine to give your brain a break. And it connects you to a community of people who are in the conscious space. So it's pretty awesome, man. I'm stoked about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to just really share about that. All right. So wrapping up, Tamer, an amazing share. And thank you so much for being on here. We've got some amazing feedback in the chat. People saying thank you. Roxy saying, hey, I've already had my SP for 30 years and I was still completely hooked in the story. Learned a lot. Wow. Just so rich what you shared with us tonight, and just appreciate it so much. So thank you, Tamer, on behalf of all of us for being here. Any final words as we sign off for the evening?
I'm so grateful for you, Josiah, and for everybody who showed up. Follow your heart on your personal legend. Know that your treasure is out there. When it gets hard, keep going. No matter what, just keep going. Live your life to the fullest every single day in that beautiful state of joy and love. and know that you create your reality. Go create a beautiful one.
Go create a beautiful one. Tamer, it is an honor to have you with us here on Neville and Chill. Thank you so much. And again, all of our love to Angela, who I know is listening in the background also. And for all of you on YouTube, thank you to everybody who is listening or either live or on the recording, all the comments. You all are such an amazing and beautiful community. I am grateful for each of you every single day. Special shout out to my channel members. You all bring such an amazing, beautiful contribution. It just makes being a host in this way such a joy. And I always am confident that the guests that I bring into this space are going to love it because you all just hold such a beautiful energy. So I wanted to acknowledge all of you for that. Thank you for just being such an amazing group of people and creating such an amazing community. Looking forward to seeing all of you for our next episode of Neville and Chill. And also coming up this Sunday, next episode of Sunday Mystery School. We are deep into the Neville question and answers. If you've ever wondered what people who sat in Neville's live classes had to ask him and what he had to say, and you want to sit in on that, but modernized, we talk about it. We build a community together. We have a discussion about it. It's truly a phenomenal experience. So check that out. That is every Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to seeing you all there. And until next time, imagine wisely, my friends. And we will see you all in the next. Good night, everyone.